The morning began like any other Wednesday until Penelope Hartwell's phone erupted with 17 missed calls. She stared at the screen, her coffee growing cold in her hand. James Cordova's name appeared again and again, each message more urgent than the last. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she dialed him back. "Penny, where have you been?" James's voice cracked with panic. "We've got a serious problem." Penelope gripped the phone tighter. As the 20-year-old CEO of Hartwell Technologies, she'd faced countless challenges since her mother Nina's death 2 years ago, but something in James's tone sent ice through her veins. "The Riverside Bank called in our loan," James continued. "All of it. They want payment in full within 30 days or they're seizing our assets." The room tilted slightly. Penelope sat down hard on her apartment's worn sofa. "That's impossible. We have 2 years left on that loan. They can, and they did. Someone bought our debt, Penny. Someone with enough power to make the bank jump through hoops. An invitation she couldn't refuse 3 hours later." Penelope stood in the lobby of Cross Tower, the gleaming 70-story monument to Gregory Cross's empire. The building dominated the skyline like a steel and glass giant, casting shadows over everything around it. She smoothed her navy blazer with trembling fingers and tried to channel her mother's courage. Miss Hartwell, a polished woman in her 40s, approached with a practiced smile. "I'm Olivia Strand, Mr. Cross's executive assistant. He's expecting you." The elevator ride to the 65th floor felt like ascending into another world. When the doors opened, Penelope stepped into an office that looked more like a penthouse suite. Floor-to ceiling windows showcased the entire city, making her feel dizzyingly small. "Ah, Miss Hartwell." The voice came from behind a massive mahogany desk. Gregory Cross rose slowly, a silver-haired man with sharp features and eyes like winter storms. "Thank you for coming on such short notice."
Oh.
"Did I have a choice?" Penelope kept her voice steady, despite the fear churning in her stomach. Gregory's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We always have choices, my dear, though sometimes the alternatives are rather unpleasant." He gestured to a leather chair. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." The proposal James sat beside Penelope, his knuckles white as he gripped his briefcase. 2 lawyers flanked Gregory's desk, their expressions carefully neutral. The whole setup felt like a tribunal. "Your company's drowning, Miss Hartwell," Gregory began without preamble. "Hartwell Technologies will declare bankruptcy within the month. Your employees, all 243 of them, will lose their jobs. Your mother's legacy will be dismantled and sold piece by piece." Each word landed like a physical blow. Penelope forced herself to meet his gaze. "You orchestrated this. You bought our debt and called it in early." "I'm a businessman," Gregory replied smoothly. "I saw an opportunity. An opportunity to destroy a company my mother spent 20 years building." Something flickered in Gregory's expression too quick to identify. "Your mother, Nina, once did something extraordinary for my family. She saved my daughter's life when Rachel was 16. A car accident, Nina stopped and pulled her from a burning vehicle, while others just watched." He paused, studying Penelope's shocked face. "I promised Nina that day I would always protect what mattered to her." "You mattered to her, Miss Hartwell, and so does this company." Penelope's throat tightened. Her mother had never mentioned this story. "If you want to honor her memory, then why are you trying to take everything from me?" "I'm not taking anything." Gregory slid a thick folder across the desk. "I'm offering you a solution." The impossible contract. Penelope's hands shook as she opened the folder. The words swam before her eyes: marriage contract, merger of interests, binding agreement. She read it twice, certain she'd misunderstood. "You want me to marry your son?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "A marriage of convenience," Gregory clarified. "Damien needs a wife who understands business, who isn't after his fortune for the wrong reasons. You need capital, protection, and resources to save your company. This arrangement benefits everyone. This is insane." James exploded beside her. "You can't buy a wife like a business asset." Gregory's expression hardened. "I'm not buying anything. I'm proposing a merger. Damien is my only heir. When I die, he'll control everything I've built. With Miss Hartwell as his wife, The Hartwell Technologies patents will be protected, developed, and brought to market. Without this arrangement, he let the sentence hang ominously. You'll destroy my company, Penelope finished flatly. The market will destroy it. I'm simply deciding whether to intervene or watch it happen. An unexpected encounter. This is blackmail, Penelope said, standing abruptly. Dressed up in fancy language and legal terms, but blackmail nonetheless. Call it what you like. You have 72 hours to decide. Penelope grabbed the contract and stormed toward the elevator, James hurrying behind her. The doors were closing when a hand shot through, stopping them. A tall man in an expensive charcoal suit stepped inside. Penelope's breath caught. She knew this face, those dark eyes that seemed to see too much. The strong jaw, the way he stood like he was ready to bolt at any moment. But it couldn't be Bennett. The name slipped out before she could stop it. The man's eyes widened with recognition and something else regret. Penny, you two know each other? James looked between them, confused. 5 years ago, at a charity gala in Boston, Penelope had spent one magical evening talking with a man who called himself Bennett. They'd discussed everything from quantum computing to the best pizza in America. He'd made her laugh until her cheeks hurt. They'd exchanged numbers, promising to meet again. But he'd never called, and when she tried reaching him, the number was disconnected. Now that same man stood before her, and she understood why he'd vanished. You're Damien Cross, she said, the betrayal sharp in her voice. You lied about your name. I used my middle name, Damien corrected quietly. And you never told me your last name either. The elevator descended in tense silence. When they reached the lobby, Penelope turned to face him fully. Did you know? About this contract? No, Damien's voice was firm. I found out this morning, same as you. Penny, I need you to know, don't. She held up her hand. Whatever you're about to say, save it. Your father just tried to buy me like a piece of property. And you, her voice cracked slightly, you're apparently part of the package deal? She walked away without looking back, but she could feel Damien's eyes on her until she disappeared into the crowded street. The countdown begins that evening. Penelope sat in her small apartment surrounded by paperwork. 72 hours to decide her entire future. Marriage to a man she'd once thought she might love. A man who'd lied to her. Or watch her mother's legacy crumble to dust. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know you have no reason to trust me, but please give me a chance to explain. The coffee shop on Maple Street. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Damien. Penelope stared at the message for a long time before typing back a single word. Why? His response came immediately. Because 5 years ago, you asked me what I wanted most in life. I said freedom. You deserve the same choice I never got. Let me help you find it. As the city lights flickered outside her window, Penelope realized that Gregory Cross's ultimatum had awakened something she'd buried long ago, the memory of one perfect evening when she'd felt truly understood by a stranger named Bennett, who turned out to be anything but a stranger after all. The clock was ticking, and her choice would change everything. Morning light filtered through the windows of the Maple Street cafe, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Penelope arrived 15 minutes early, armed with determination and doubt in equal measure. She chose a corner table where she could watch the door. Her mother's old leather journal open before her, filled with Nina's notes about running the company, building a legacy, fighting for what mattered. When Damien walked in at exactly 8 o'clock, several heads turned. He had that effect, commanding attention without trying. But Penelope noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. Thank you for coming, Damien said, sitting across from her. He didn't order coffee, just folded his hands on the table. I wasn't sure you would, I almost didn't. Penelope closed her mother's journal. You have 10 minutes. Explain why I shouldn't walk out right now and never look back. Damien took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I was suffocating. My father had every aspect of my life planned. Where I worked, who I socialized with, even who I should marry. So I did something reckless. I went to that charity gala in Boston alone, without security, and I used my middle name. For one night, I wanted to be just a person, not Gregory Cross's son. And then you met me, Penelope said quietly. Then I met you. Something softened in Damien's expression. You talked about your mother's company with such passion. How she started it in a garage with nothing but an idea and determination. You made me believe that business could be about more than just profit margins and hostile takeovers. The vanishing act, so why did you disappear? The question had haunted Penelope for 5 years. My father found out. Damien's jaw tightened. He has people everywhere. Within 2 days, he knew exactly who you were, who your mother was, and he saw an opportunity. He gave me an ultimatum: go to London immediately to handle a crisis at our European division, or he'd move forward with plans to acquire Hartwell Technologies right then. Penelope felt the blood drain from her face. 5 years ago. He was planning this 5 years ago. My father plays a very long game. Damien pulled out his phone, scrolling through old messages. I tried to contact you. Dozens of calls, emails, messages. But somehow, nothing got through. It wasn't until yesterday that I discovered why. He showed her his phone screen messages marked as delivered that Penelope had never received. My father controls my phone plan, my email server through company infrastructure. He filtered everything. The revelation hit Penelope like a wave. All those months she'd spent thinking Damien had simply lost interest, that their connection meant nothing to him. You could have found another way to reach me. You're right. Damien met her eyes directly. I should have tried harder. I should have shown up at your office, sent a letter, something. I told myself I was protecting you from my father's schemes, but really, I was just a coward. I'm sorry, Penny. Truly sorry. Secrets in the journal. Penelope's phone buzzed with a message from James. Found something in your mother's old files. You need to see this ASAP. I have to go, Penelope said, standing. My CFO found something. Let me come with you, Damien offered. Please. Whatever this is, it might be connected to why my father is so determined about this marriage contract. Against her better judgment, Penelope nodded. They took separate cars to the Hartwell Technologies office, a modest 3-story building in the tech district. James waited in Penelope's office, surrounded by cardboard boxes filled with old files. Your mother kept meticulous records, James explained, handing Penelope a faded folder. I was going through her personal files from 20 years ago, looking for any legal leverage we might have. That's when I found this. Inside was a contract dated 2 decades earlier. Penelope scanned the pages, her confusion growing. This is an investment agreement between my mother and Gregory Cross. He provided initial funding for Hartwell Technologies. Your mother never mentioned this? Damien looked equally surprised. James pointed to a specific clause. Read Section 7. Penelope's heart stuttered as she read aloud. In the event that either party's heir requires assistance, the other party is obligated to provide support commensurate with the original investment value. Adjusted for inflation and market growth? She looked up, stunned. This means if I ask for help, Gregory Cross is legally bound to provide it. Without conditions? Not quite, James said grimly. Look at the addendum your mother added 3 months before she died. The mother's amendment, the handwritten note, was in Nina Hartwell's distinctive script. Gregory, I'm adding this clause because I know how your mind works. If my daughter ever needs your help, you'll try to use it as leverage. This addendum states that any support provided must be given freely, without personal conditions or demands that compromise her autonomy. Our children should have the freedom we fought so hard to build. Don't make me regret trusting you. Nina, tears blurred Penelope's vision. Her mother had known. Somehow Nina had anticipated this exact situation. There's more, James said softly, handing her another document. This is a letter your mother wrote to you. The law firm that handled her estate was instructed to hold it until you faced a significant business crisis involving the Cross family, with shaking hands. Penelope opened the sealed envelope. Her mother's voice seemed to speak from the pages. My dearest Penny, if you're reading this, Gregory has made his move. I've known him for 30 years. Brilliant, ruthless, but capable of genuine loyalty in his own twisted way. When I saved Rachel from that car accident, I didn't just pull a girl from flames. I saved the only person Gregory truly loves besides himself. He promised me that day he'd protect what I love, you and this company. But Gregory's protection always comes with strings. He'll try to control the situation, to arrange things to his advantage. Don't let him. The contract I signed with him includes protections you can use. More importantly, I need you to know something about his son, Damien. I met him a few times over the years. He's nothing like his father, Penny. He's trapped in a golden cage, just like you might soon be if you're not careful. If Gregory pushes you toward Damien, don't assume it's all manipulation. Sometimes even calculated moves can lead to unexpected outcomes. Trust your instincts, my darling girl. They've never failed you yet. And remember, you are stronger than you know. Love always, Mom. The unexpected ally your mother was remarkable, Damien said quietly after reading the letter over Penelope's shoulder. She saw right through my father's methods. She also seemed to think you were worth trusting, Penelope said, studying his face. Was she right? Before Damien could answer, Olivia Strand appeared in the doorway, looking nervous. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you both need to know something. She glanced around as if checking for hidden listeners. I've worked for Gregory Cross for 12 years. I've watched him destroy companies, manipulate people, and play games with lives. But I've also seen him keep his promises in his own way. Why are you telling us this? Penelope asked. Olivia pulled out a tablet showing them a confidential medical report. Because Gregory Cross is dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. He has 6 months, maybe less. He's kept it secret from everyone except me and his doctors. Damien went pale. No, that's impossible. He just completed a full physical last month. The results were perfect. The results he showed you were fabricated, Olivia said gently. I'm sorry, Damien, but this explains everything. He's not trying to destroy Hartwell Technologies. He's trying to secure both companies' futures before he dies. He wants to ensure you have a partner who can't be bought or intimidated, someone with their own legacy to protect. By forcing us into marriage, Penelope said bitterly. By creating a situation where you'll choose each other, Olivia corrected. Gregory believes that given the right circumstances, people will make the choices he wants them to make. He's betting that you two will find a way to work together because you already care about each other, whether you admit it or not. The counter-strategy after Olivia left, the three of them sat in stunned silence. Finally, Damien spoke. I won't let him manipulate you like this, Penny. We'll find another way. I have my own resources, contacts who could provide alternative funding. No, Penelope interrupted, her mind racing. Actually, I have a better idea. What if we beat him at his own game? James leaned forward with interest. I'm listening. Penelope stood, pacing as the plan formed. Your father wants to control the situation, right? He thinks he's maneuvered us into a corner where marriage is our only option. But my mother's contract gives us leverage he doesn't expect. We can demand that any support be given without personal conditions. He'll argue that the marriage contract is a business arrangement, not a personal condition, Damien pointed out. Exactly. So we propose something that is purely business, a temporary partnership instead. You come work at Hartwell Technologies for 6 months. No marriage, no permanent commitment. Just 2 professionals collaborating to stabilize my company and prove that we can work together. If it goes well, we consider a formal merger of the companies as equals. If it doesn't work, your father still has to honor his original investment obligation to my mother. James grinned. That's brilliant. You're using his own contract against him. But there's something else, Penelope said, looking at Damien. That charity gala where we met it wasn't chance, was it? Your father knew I'd be there. Damien closed his eyes, and she had her answer. He suggested I attend. Said it would be good for networking. I didn't realize until much later that he'd maneuvered everything, so even our first meeting was part of his long game. Penelope felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. He's been planning this for 5 years, waiting for the perfect moment to spring his trap. But here's what he didn't plan for, Damien said, meeting her gaze with sudden intensity. He didn't plan for the fact that meeting you changed me, that I spent 5 years trying to become someone worthy of finding you again. That every business decision I made, I asked myself what you would think. what you would do differently. The raw honesty in his voice made Penelope's breath catch. Damien, I'm not asking you to trust me, he continued. I'm asking you to let me prove myself. Come with me tomorrow to confront my father together. Present your counterproposal. And no matter what he says or threatens, I'll stand with you. Not as Gregory Cross's son, but as someone who should have fought for you 5 years ago and is finally ready to do it now. The decision point that night. Penelope sat in her apartment with her mother's letter and journal, reading and rereading the words. Her phone showed 52 hours remaining until Gregory's deadline. But now she understood the deadline was never real. It was just another manipulation, another way to pressure her into acting rashly. A text arrived from Damien. My father doesn't know. I discovered his medical condition. That gives us an advantage. He thinks we're still playing his game. Tomorrow, we change the rules. Penelope typed back. Tomorrow, we show him that some things can't be bought, controlled, or manipulated. Some things have to be chosen freely, like what? Damien replied. Penelope paused before answering, surprised by her own certainty, like partnerships, like trust, like the chance to build something real instead of something forced. The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I'd like that chance, Penny, more than you know. As she turned off her phone and prepared for the confrontation ahead, Penelope realized her mother had been right about one, things, sometimes even calculated moves, could lead to unexpected outcomes. Gregory Cross had engineered this situation to force a marriage. But what he might get instead was something more dangerous to his plans and more powerful than any contract. 2 people choosing to fight, together because they wanted to, not because they had to. The real game was just beginning. The morning air was crisp as Penelope and Damien stood together outside Cross Tower. They'd spent the previous evening preparing their strategy, reviewing the old contracts, and building their case. Now, dressed in her mother's favorite blazer and carrying a briefcase full of evidence, Penelope felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Ready? Damien asked, his hand hovering near hers, but not quite touching. Ready, Penelope confirmed. And together, they walked into the lion's den. Gregory Cross was waiting in his office, looking perfectly composed despite Olivia's revelation about his illness. He sat behind his massive desk like a king on his throne, confident and in control. But Penelope noticed the slight tremor in his hand as he reached for his coffee, the way he shifted his weight carefully as if managing pain. 48 hours early, Gregory observed with approval. I like initiative. Have you come to sign the marriage contract? We've come to propose an alternative, Penelope said, setting her briefcase on his desk and pulling out the documents. One that honors your original agreement with my mother without compromising anyone's autonomy. Gregory's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Perhaps. I'm listening. Counteroffer. Damien stepped forward, standing beside Penelope in a clear show of unified purpose. My father, I'm resigning from Cross Industries effective immediately. I got a reaction. Gregory's composure cracked slightly. You're what? I'm taking a leave of absence to work at Hartwell Technologies as a strategic consultant. 6 months, renewable based on mutual agreement. During this time, I'll help Penelope stabilize her company, implement new growth strategies, and bring her products to market. In exchange, Penelope continued smoothly. Hartwell Technologies will license certain patent technologies to Cross Industries at preferential rates. Not a sale, not a merger, a partnership between equals. Gregory leaned back in his chair, studying them both with calculating intensity. And what makes you think I'll agree to this instead of simply proceeding with my original plan? Penelope placed the 20-year-old contract on his desk. Because my mother's agreement with you requires that any support you provide must be given freely, without personal conditions that compromise autonomy. Her addendum specifically prohibits using business assistance as leverage for personal arrangements. A forced marriage violates that clause. The marriage contract is a business arrangement, Gregory countered, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. Is it? Damien challenged. Then why structure it as marriage instead of a traditional merger? Why insist on a personal relationship when a professional partnership would achieve the same business goals. The truth emerges. Silence filled the enormous office. Outside the windows, the city buzzed with life, people making choices, living freely, building futures on their own terms. Finally, Gregory spoke, and his voice was different, older, more tired. "Your mother Nina was the most stubborn woman I ever met," he said, almost to himself. "When she pulled Rachel from that burning car, she didn't hesitate, didn't calculate the risks, or consider what she might gain. She just acted because it was right." He looked at Penelope with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You have her eyes. Did you know that? Same color, same fierce determination." "You're changing the subject," Penelope said, though her voice was gentler now. "No, I'm explaining." Gregory stood slowly, walking to the windows. The movement seemed to cost him effort. "I built an empire, Miss Hartwell. 50 years of work, thousands of employees, billions in assets. But empires need heirs who can maintain them. Damien is brilliant, but he's too soft." He held up a hand when his son started to protest. "Not weak. Soft in the way that makes good leaders great. Compassionate, willing to consider alternatives to ruthless tactics." "You say that like it's a bad thing," Damien said quietly. "It's not. But it means you need the right partner. Someone who has that same compassion, but also the steel to fight when necessary." Gregory turned back to face them. "When I learned about your chance meeting 5 years ago, I saw an opportunity. To young people with complementary strengths, genuine attraction, and shared values. I thought if I created the right pressure, the right circumstances, you'd choose each other and build something stronger than either company alone." The manipulation revealed. "You manipulated everything," Penelope said, anger rising in her chest. "My company's financial crisis, the called loan, even that charity gala where Damien and I first met. How much of our lives have you controlled?" "The gala was chance," Gregory admitted. "But when I discovered you'd connected, I saw possibilities. Yes, I interfered. I blocked communications, created obstacles, maintained separation while positioning the pieces. The financial pressure on your company began 6 months ago when I started buying your debt through shell corporations." "You're dying," Damien said suddenly, the words dropping like stones into still water. Gregory's mask finally slipped. Surprise, then anger, then something almost like relief crossed his face. "Olivia told you. She thought we deserved the truth," Penelope said. "And it changes everything, doesn't it? This isn't just about business succession. You're trying to ensure your son isn't alone when you're gone." The mighty Gregory Cross suddenly looked every one of his 62 years. He sank back into his chair, the weight of his secrets finally visible. "I have 6 months if I'm lucky. 3 if I'm not. I've spent 50 years building an empire, but I failed at the one thing that mattered most, teaching my son that. Strength and compassion aren't mutually exclusive." Nina understood that. She built a company based on innovation. And integrity proved you could succeed without destroying others. "A different kind of leverage, so you decided to force us together," Damien said, hurt evident in his voice. "Rather than trust me to find my own path, my own partner." "Well, I was buying time," Gregory replied, "and trying to give you what I never had, a partner who genuinely understands the burden of leadership." He looked at Penelope. "Your company isn't just struggling because of debt, Miss Hartwell. Struggling because you're trying to do everything alone, just like your mother did until it killed her. She worked herself to death, literally. Because she couldn't delegate, couldn't trust anyone with her vision." The words hit too close to home. Penelope had been working 18-hour days, micromanaging every decision, terrified that any mistake would dishonor her mother's legacy. "It's not. It's exactly what you're doing," Gregory interrupted. "I've watched you. You have brilliant engineers, a talented management team, but you treat them like assistants instead of partners. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're afraid of failing her memory." Tears pricked Penelope's eyes, but she blinked them back. "You don't get to psychoanalyze me after trying to buy me like property." "You're right, I don't." Gregory pulled out a different folder from his desk drawer, "which is why I'm going to do something I rarely do, admit I was wrong and offer you a genuine choice." The real proposal. Gregory slid the new folder across the desk. Inside was a completely different agreement, one that made Penelope's breath catch. This is a $10 million investment in Hartwell Technologies, she read aloud, scanning the pages rapidly. No strings attached, no marriage requirement, no control provisions, just straight capital investment with standard minority shareholder terms. She looked up, suspicious. Why, because your mother was right, Gregory said simply. Her addendum to our original contract was meant to protect you from exactly what I tried to do. I've violated the spirit of our agreement, if not the letter. This investment fulfills my obligation to her and too without coercion. But what about your succession plan? Damien asked. You're concerned about my future? Gregory smiled faintly. Your future is your own, son. Perhaps it's time I trusted you to build it. He paused, a shadow of his old calculating self returning. Though I will note that Hartwell Technologies could use someone with experience in international markets and corporate strategy. Someone who knows how to navigate board politics and manage aggressive investors. That 6-month consulting position Miss Hartwell proposed isn't a bad idea if both parties enter it freely. Choosing freedom, Penelope and Damien exchanged glances. The manipulation was still there, buried under layers of apparent generosity. Gregory Cross couldn't help himself even when trying to be genuine. He was still nudging them toward his preferred outcome. But the difference was crucial. He was offering them the power to choose. I need to discuss this with my board, Penelope said carefully. And with Damien, privately, can we have 24 hours? Take 48, Gregory replied. I'm not going anywhere. The bitter humor in his voice acknowledged the dark reality of his condition. Outside the office, in the elevator descending to Ward Street level, Penelope finally let herself breathe. That was exhausting, Damien supplied. Manipulative? Weirdly touching? All of the above? Penelope laughed, slightly hysterical. Your father just tried to buy me a husband, got caught, and somehow still managed to make it seem like he was doing us a favor. That's his superpower, Damien said wryly. He can't help himself. Even when he's trying to do the right thing, he has to engineer the situation. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into the bustling lobby. For what it's worth, I meant what I said. I would like to work with you, Penny. Not because my father wants it, but because I think we could build something remarkable together. The real choice, they walked to a nearby park, finding a bench overlooking a small pond where ducks paddled peacefully, oblivious to human complications. For a long moment, they sat in companionable silence. 5 years ago, Penelope began, I thought I'd met someone special. Someone who saw me as more than just my mother's daughter or a company to acquire. When you disappeared, I told myself I'd been naive. That connection wasn't real. It was real, Damien said softly. Everything about that night was real. It was the only real thing in my life at that time. But we can't go back to that, Penelope continued. Too much has happened. Your father's manipulation, the company crisis, all these revelations. We can't just pretend it's 5 years ago and start fresh. No, Damien agreed. We can't. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. 5 years ago, we were different people. I was a man hiding from my father's shadow, and you were just beginning to step into your mother's shoes. Now we've both been tested, broken a little, rebuilt stronger. Penelope turned to look at him fully. So what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we take this one step at a time, without anyone's manipulation or expectations. Accept my father's investment for your company, no conditions. If you want to hire me as a consultant after that, we can discuss terms. If we want to see if there's still something between us personally, we can do that too. But every single thing happens because we choose it, not because circumstances force us. Building something real, what if it doesn't work? Penelope asked. What if we try the consulting arrangement and realize we make terrible partners? Then we'll have learned something valuable, Damien said with a slight smile. You'll still have your company and your independence. That's the whole point making. Sure, you have choices. Real ones, not manufactured dilemmas designed to push you in a specific direction. Penelope considered this, weighing her options with the same analytical mind she brought to every business decision. But beneath the analysis, she felt something else, a flutter of hope, of possibility, of the same connection she'd felt 5 years ago, under stars and string lights at a charity gala. Okay, she said finally, let's do this. The consulting position, the partnership, all of it. But on our terms, not your father's. We write the contract, we set the boundaries, we decide how this works. Damien extended his hand formally. Partners, Penelope. Shook it, feeling the warmth of his grip, the steadiness of his gaze. Partners. For now. For now, he agreed, but his smile suggested he hoped for much more than that epilogue 6 months later. The boardroom of Hartwell Technologies buzzed with energy as Penelope presented the quarterly results. Revenue up 42%. 3 new patents filed. Clinical trials for her mother's breakthrough technology progressing ahead of schedule. In the front row, James beamed with pride. Beside him sat Damien, now officially the company's chief strategy officer, his input having proved invaluable. After the presentation, as the board members filed out chattering excitedly, Damien approached her. That was impressive. Your mother would be proud. Our mother would be proud, Penelope corrected gently. Gregory Cross had passed away 2 weeks earlier. His final months spent watching his son and Penelope build exactly what he'd envisioned, though, in their own way. Oh. On their own terms. In his will, he'd left a letter for each of them. Penelope's had contained a simple message. Thank you for proving an old man wrong. Love isn't something you can force or arrange. It's something you choose every day. Choose wisely. Dinner tonight? Damien asked, and there was nothing casual about the question. Over the past 6 months, they'd carefully rebuilt their connection, taking it slow. Learning to trust each other as colleagues first, then friends. And finally, recently something more. Dinner, Penelope agreed. But I'm picking the restaurant this time. Your simple Italian place last week had a 3-month waiting list and a wine menu longer than my quarterly report. Damien laughed, the sound free and genuine. Can I help it if I have excellent taste? In restaurants or in business partners? Penelope teased. Both, he said, and this time when he took her hand. There were no contracts between them, no manipulation. No forced choices, just a people who'd found their way to each other through storms of circumstance and emerged stronger for it. Outside the window, the city sprawled before them, full of challenges, opportunities, and endless possibilities. Together, they'd face them all, not because anyone forced them to, but because they'd chosen each other freely. And that, Penelope thought as she squeezed Damien's hand and felt him squeeze back, made all the difference.